This video is a short little demonstration of how the dynamic camera system, which I created for our Beta Arcade project, works in the game. As you can see, all three players stand in the center. Once a player gets close in, the camera zooms in. Once a player moves out, the camera zooms out in order to try and keep all the players in shot. The way this camera system works fires off a series of custom events in order. Get distance, which essentially calculates the distance between the max distance between the players when comparing them to each other. It sets the center point, the camera zoom, the box position, and the camera position. When it comes to the first custom event, as you can see, it looks at the player characters in the game world, compares the distance between them, puts them into an array, and since an array is a list, this is why it gets the max value of that and stores that information of the max distance between the players as being the longest distance. This variable is then used. Later on when it comes to adjusting the spring arm length. But the next sequence of events, or the next function that appears in this line of events, is a set center point. The player characters themselves, they're all added together, their world location in the game, and is divided by 4. And that information is stored in a variable called the center position point. What that means is it calculates all the position of the players in the world and finds the average location between them. Now, the previously mentioned longest distance camera variable from here, which is the highest number in a list of the distance between the players, that's used to adjust the spring arm length of the camera. You can see that in the viewport here. This camera is attached to the spring roll. The camera is attached to the spring arm. Sorry. Using that variable, longest distance, the spring arm, its target length is set to that of the distance between the players of what the matter in terms of a float value in order to keep them all in shot. Then the box position which as you can see here in the component section, carries the spring arm and the camera. That's set to the average position between all the players. The variable called set center position, which gets all the player characters' locations, adds them together, divides them by 4, as you know, because there are 4 players to calculate an average. And then, finally, it runs this event, the set camera position event. The set camera position event gets the world location of the box, adjusts the X and Y, gets the X and Y position, and essentially sets those to be used for the spring arm. So it adjusts the X and the Y location of the spring arm according to the center position of the players. So this moves the camera in between the players, and as the zoom is calculated by the distance between them. The logic that you see here creates this effect. As a player runs out, the camera zooms out. As a player moves in and gets closer to one another, it zooms in, zooms out, zooms in. As you can see, it's not attached to any player